So we're on Chapter 5, Lesson 3 now, and we're going to move on from there and deal with a new type of actually line representation, and that different representation is called point slope form. But first of all, we're going to do this problem here. It says a carnival charges an entrance fee and a ticket fee. One person pays $27.50 and bought 5 tickets. Another paid $45 and bought 12 tickets. How much will 22 tickets cost? Well, let's start by setting up the problem. And you can see I set up the equation here. It says basically we got the number of tickets. That's what I've listed right here. N equaling the number of tickets. So that's the number of tickets that have been bought. So now what we have is up here we have the entrance fee and the cost, C being the cost. And so basically this is a linear equation. And one way to think about it is it's sort of like y equals mx plus b, except for this part is the b, because that's the y-intercept. This part is the y, the dependent variable, and this is the independent variable. So the way this is going to work is it's going to be the cost is equal to the number of tickets. Well, it's going to be the slope times the number of tickets bought. Actually, I said n for that, the number of tickets, n. Or, yeah, so n for the number of tickets, plus whatever the entrance fee is, A. And so now we're going to go ahead and figure this out based on the slope formula that we've used before. So let me set that up. So this part here is going to be our slope, because it's 45. The reason why I need to put the $45 or the $45 minus the $27.5 on top is that's the dependent variable. So that would be like our y, and the x would be the dependent or the independent variable, and that would be our x, and that would be the number of tickets. So that's why it's set up that way. So I've got part of my equation solved. So now I just need to plug in some numbers and figure this out. So when I go through this problem and solve it all, I just substitute in the numbers back in there. So I'm going to choose to substitute in the 45 here and the 12, because those are just easier numbers to work with than this 27, 50, and 5. So when I do that, I get my y-intercept. And now all I need to do is plug in new numbers. I'm going to end up with how much it is, because I've got now my equation. So the cost is going to be equal to 17.5 divided by 7 plus times n plus a, which a, now we actually know, so I can replace a. So a is going to be 15. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in the value 22 for the tickets. And when I do that, I can then solve the problem. So let's move on to the stuff that I really want to focus on, though. Point slope form of an equation of a non-vertical line. Now, what this is basically it's a new way of representing it. It looks like this in this format here. And it says here the point slope form of the equation of the non-vertical line through a given point, x minus 1, or x1 and y1, with the slope of m is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. This is basically, they multiplied out the slope formula in an interesting way. So I'll show you what I mean, and then I think it will make sense. So write an equation with the point slope form of the line that passes through the point 5, 1, and with the slope of -3. So it's just going to be y minus 1 is equal to m, which is the slope, which is -3, times x minus 5. That's it. That's the point slope of the point slope formula. And so that's an easy way of coming up with the equation of a line if you know the slope and if you have one point. Let's do a couple more of these. So another one here, we got x is equal to -3 and y is equal to -2. So it's got to be y minus -2 is equal to the slope times x minus negative 3. So if you want, you can put that in there. So, and I would actually I'd prefer to write it like this. But either way is correct. So now the next one here, y minus 4 is equal to the slope negative 4 times x minus 1. Starting to make sense, I hope. So y for this one, and it's going to be minus negative 8 is equal to the slope, which is negative 4/9. Now it's times x minus 6. So like I said, this is just a different way of representing the information. If we were to ask to graph this, we want to go ahead and look at this and plot the point and then use the slope. So here, for the first part here, we know our point. Our point is going to be positive 2 and negative 2, so our point is going to be 2. It's actually going to be negative 2 for x and positive 2 for y. And the reason why I know that is because this is subtracting the y value. This is subtracting the y value, so it has to be negative there for the x and positive for the y because it changes the sign there. So negative 2, positive 2, so that's that point right there. And now I've got the 1/2, so it's going to be 1 up, 2 over. 1 up, 2 over. 1 up, 2 over. 1 up, 2 over. And that's how it should look. So plot that point, and then you just graph it that way. Another equation here. What's the point going to be? The point is going to be, well, y's value is going to be 2, and x's value is going to be negative 4. And then we've got our slope there. So negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2, 1, 2. Now I've just got my slope. My slope is negative 4/7. So that means I go down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Every time I go over 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's going to be my next point. So down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I got it up to here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 7. So it's actually going to be, I need to move this down a little bit more. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to be right there. There we go. That's our line. So now let's try it with this one here. This one here, same thing. X's value is going to be negative 2. Remember, you need to make sure it's negative. And y's value is going to be negative 3. So negative 2, negative 3. So 1, 2, 3. And then our slope is 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and over. So it's nice and easy to work with when you use point slope form. For here, write an equation in point slope form. What you've got here is you've just got to figure out the slope. That's what this part is. And once you figure out the slope, then you can then use either point. It doesn't matter which point you're using, because these two are equivalent equations. So then you plug in the points just like we did in the previous ones. So write an equation in point slope form. Here we're going to figure out the slope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's negative 6 over 1, 2, 3. 3. I just counted that off, although I could do the actual math, but why do the actual math if you have it right there, and you can do it that way as well. So negative 2 is the slope, so it's going to be y minus, I'm going to use this point right here, y minus 3 is equal to negative 2 times x minus negative 2. So that's going to be y minus 3 is equal to negative 2 times x plus 2. And that's it in point slope form. So hopefully this makes sense. I'm going to leave you there. I'm going to actually I'll do 2 of these, but I'll just write up the answers quickly. So those are just two more examples. You can pause it there and see what I did as I walk through that. Make sure that you realize that there is a negative sign right there, just to make sure that that's clear. So hopefully this makes sense. Take the quiz afterwards, and we will talk in the morning.